the Young Dudes by MsKingBean89, Chapter 111, 6th Year, Separation. Remus woke up the next morning with a hangover and an enormous sense of relief. He'd had to be drunk to do it, but it was done. No more jealousy, no more worrying, no more anxious questioning. The key now, he decided, was maintaining a distance and building barriers. By the time he had finished his shower on the morning after his 17th birthday, Remus had a plan of action. He would close the door on whatever his relationship with Sirius had been. It was fine to look upon Christmas as a fond memory, or to feel a little bit lonelier, a little less so. But this was entirely necessary, both for his health and his sanity. Sirius was not the whole world, as much as he might seem it sometimes. Remus had demonstrated this almost immediately. Upon exiting the bathroom, he bumped into James, who looked as though he hadn't touched a drop of liquor the night before, despite having just as much as everyone else. That infuriating pot of good fortune apparently applied to hangovers too. "Morning, Mooney," he grinned, rosy-cheeked in his Quidditch robes. Today was not a practice day, but why should that stop James? He raised his broom. "Fancy a spin around the pitch?" This was an old joke. He always asked, and Remus always pulled a face. Remus glanced at the two-made beds, and the two of the curtains still closed, where, presumably, Peter and Sirius were still fast asleep. "Yeah," Remus said. "Go on, then." "Eh?" James stopped in his tracks. Remus nodded, casually. "I'll go with you. I ought to get better at flying. Might be useful when we finish school. I've got your old broom somewhere. Let me dig it out." Credit to James. After his initial surprise, he was all for the idea, and he even held his tongue when he saw the state of Remus's dusty, neglected broomstick. He simply offered to polish it, then led Remus down to the Quidditch pitch, jabbering about simple, basic exercises to get your confidence up. And it wasn't awful. James was a very patient teacher, and Remus felt in safe hands. The bespectacled boy didn't even laugh after the third time he fell off. Afterwards, Remus felt he even understood James a little better. It was a very wholesome feeling, walking back to breakfast, hungry and aching and full of energy. This first experiment had gone so well, in fact, that Remus decided he would say yes to anything his friends asked of him from now on. In this way, he would keep himself busy until Sirius went back to being whatever he'd been before. At breakfast, they were greeted by a row of red-eyed, sickly-faced Gryffindors, all leaning sleepily on their elbows. Mary and Marlene sitting back to back, propping each other up. "Christ," Mary squinted at James and Remus. "You've not been exercising? Bloody lunatics." "You went, Mooney." Sirius looked up, wincing and rubbing his apparently sore neck. Remus just gave a small shrug, then looked away. Sirius didn't try to talk to him again. They were halfway through the meal. Remus as usual eating half his body weight in fried bread, eggs, baked beans and bacon. Everyone else picking at their own plate with faintly nauseous expressions, or else nursing a large mug of black coffee, when Lily straightened up, eyes wide suddenly, as if electrified. "Oh shit," she said, then kicked James under the table. "Potter," she hissed, "we never gave Remus his present." James smirked at her, and Remus raised an eyebrow. "You and James got me a present? Together?" "We all did," James laughed. "And there's no need to beat me up, Evans. I've got it right here." He withdrew a brown leather box from his robes. It was about the size of his hand, smooth and expensive looking, with a gold embossed border. It looked like the sort of thing girls kept their pricier jewellery in. "You all?" Remus accepted the box, curiously. "I hope you didn't spend too much. You know I can't—" "Oh, shut your face, Mooney," Peter yawned, prodding his porridge dazedly. "We had a whip round for you. Almost everyone in Gryffindor wanted to put in." "Not just Gryffindor either," Marlene grinned. "Nearly everyone we asked, even some teachers." Remus was just looking down at the box now, because he knew he had probably gone red. Some hot, sickly bubble of emotion was burning his throat, so he swallowed hard, which didn't help. "Open it, Remus," he heard Lily's voice. He pried it apart, and the box sprang open in a pleasingly neat motion. The interior was midnight blue velvet, and nestled among the folds was the most beautiful piece of treasure Remus had ever seen. It was a golden pocket watch on a long, fine chain, polished to a high shine so that it was practically glowing. The case was decorated with intricate vine-like swirls and patterns surrounding the shield at the centre, which had been engraved in an elaborate script with his initials, R.J.L. He snapped it open with the lightest touch, and saw inside the clock face was a mother of pearl, and shimmered gorgeously beneath the golden hands which ticked away reassuringly. The other half seemed to contain a compass. "I didn't think they worked at Hogwarts," he murmured. "It's special," Mary said, eagerly. "It doesn't point north, or wherever normal ones do. If you say the name of somebody you love, it points you in their direction." "Try it out, Moony," James encouraged. Remus looked up at his friends, nervously, then quickly raised the watch to his mouth and whispered, "Lily Evans." At once, the needle spun into place, pointing directly across the table. Lily grinned bashfully. James kicked him under the table. "Bloody ladies, man." "You're all amazing," Remus said. Oh, but he didn't sound too choked up. "Bloody amazing." For the first week, Remus's new resume seemed pretty effective. It certainly kept him busy. He said yes to everything, happily dropping whatever he was doing at a minute's notice to help a younger student with their homework, or call a group study session when the Care of Magical Creatures news class panicked over sphinxes. He accompanied Lily on patrols, he discussed literature with Chris, talked Quidditch tactics with Marlene, and played endless games of chess with Peter, and lost every time. He was the angel of Gryffindor Tower. Because Sirius was not the only thing Remus was ignoring. The old shoebox Dumbledore had given him sat underneath his bed still, gathering dust and unopened, as it probably had been for many years, perhaps on some shelf in Matron's office. Why was it his shoebox? Remus wondered, as he tossed and turned in his bed every night. Something so mundane, so everyday. It made whatever was inside seem all the more terrifying. Trust Matron to be so heartlessly practical. It wasn't even from a good shoe shop like Clark's or Johnson's. It was an economy brand, like everything else he'd ever received at St. Edmund's. The box might have contained any number of things, and it wasn't that Remus wasn't curious. It wasn't as if he didn't try to imagine what was in there. Deeds to a house he could go live in, that would be pretty brilliant. Maybe some owed money, photographs, a letter from his father, an explanation. It might contain answers to questions he hadn't even known to ask. But he didn't open it. He knew that once he opened the box, all of the mystery would disappear, and he would be left with something disappointing. Because there could be nothing inside that could truly satisfy him. So, keeping busy helped, making sure he exhausted himself each day so that he fell straight to sleep each night, even when the other boys stayed up chatting, plotting pranks. But Sirius himself helped too. By some incredible twist of fate, he appeared to be giving Remus space. If Sirius remembered Remus's harsh words from the night of the party, then he didn't mention it. But he didn't try to get him alone, or treat him with any kind of resentment or disdain. Remus surmised that Sirius had either 1. Been too drunk to take anything in, or 2. Taken Remus at his word and chosen to back away quietly. For Remus, with exams on the horizon, option 2 was by far the most preferable, so he decided to believe it. Their separation was so smooth and so complete that soon even Remus had a hard time believing they'd ever been close at all. Surely, to everyone else, it must seem that nothing had changed at all. Sirius was still Sirius, outgoing, girl-loving, cheeky, rebellious, devastating, and Remus was just Remus, quiet, private, studious, and long-suffering secondary marauder. As March drew to a close, the birthday party now weeks behind them, there was only one moment when the situation very nearly came to a head, but was quickly deflated with help from an unexpected caller. It was late one Friday afternoon, and Remus was hosting an introductory dueling workshop. Christopher was there. Christopher was never far away these days, but most of the class were beginners, and much younger. They were just grasping some basic disarming and diversionary spells when the door to the Charms classroom opened, but no one walked in. Everyone turned to look, and muttered, "Peeves," before returning to their attack stances. Remus knew better. He followed the scent about the room, and watched as the open door of Flitwick's office moved only very slightly, as if someone had brushed the handle on their way inside. Flitwick trusted Remus and left his office open in case they needed any equipment from inside. He kept a number of large mattresses, which were good for dueling, as well as an emergency healing kit in there. Remus cleared his throat. "That's good. Keep practicing. Remember to enunciate nice and loudly for me. I'll be right back." He slipped around the edges of the room as he said this, then stepped inside the office. "Sirius," Remus hissed. "Get out, this isn't—" "I'm just hiding from Filch. Have a heart, Mooney." Sirius whipped back the invisibility cloak, a familiar grin on his face. The sort of grin that usually got him whatever he liked. Remus bristled. "You've got the cloak? Hide somewhere else. I'm nearly finished in here anyway. They'll be leaving in a minute." "Well, then it's no big deal, is it? I'll just stay till they're gone. Might even learn something." "Remus, are you okay in there?" A tap at the door. "Christopher?" "Yeah, sorry." Remus gave Sirius one last furious glance before stepping out. Sirius grinned and vanished again. Remus left the door open, and he knew that Sirius had got bored and left the office. Remus pictured him leaning casually against the wall, observing with a wry smile. Remus carried on teaching the best he could, trying to ignore the distraction. He felt horribly exposed being watched like that, knowing Sirius was so near. When the class finally finished, Remus ushered them all out, saying that the room was needed for something else. Everyone left, chattering excitedly about the weekend ahead. Everyone except Christopher. "I'll help you clear up," he said, eagerly, as the last few students filtered out, shouting their goodbyes to Remus as they went. Christopher and Remus made short work of rearranging the charms classroom, restoring it to its usual orderliness. He could feel Sirius watching them the whole time, the hairs on the back of his neck standing up. "Did you read that book?" Christopher asked. "The Charioteer?" Remus winced, but nodded. "Yeah, it was good." It had been good. Hard to read at points, worryingly relatable, but something of a relief too. "Oh, I'm so glad you liked it," Christopher said. Remus could imagine Sirius pulling a face at Chris, getting so excited over a book. "What about the ending?" "Oh, yeah, it was good. I liked it." "Really?" Christopher wrinkled his nose. "I didn't. I wish Laurie had picked Andrew, don't you?" Of course Christopher identified with Andrew, sweet and bookish and chaste. "I liked Ralph," Remus shrugged. "Even if he wasn't perfect, he was more, I don't know, exciting." Remus had thought that Ralph sounded really fucking sexy, actually, but he had been picturing Sirius the whole time, which might have had a lot to do with it. He dearly hoped that if Sirius was eavesdropping, and of course he was Sirius after all, that he didn't understand a word of what Christopher was saying. "I thought you'd like him best," Christopher said, with a note of sadness. He was standing next to Remus now, his satchel over one shoulder, ready to go. "Just go," Remus begged, inwardly. "He reminded me a bit of your friend, Sirius Black." "Oh!" That got his attention, and Sirius's too. Remus could practically feel him straighten up. "Yeah," Christopher smiled coyly. "Sorry, but it's pretty obvious you have a bit of a thing for him." Remus just blinked, struck dumb. Christopher laughed softly. "It's a waste of time, Remus, can't you see that? Yeah, he's beautiful and everything, but he's clearly girl-mad. You you deserve someone who cares about you as much as you care about them." "Christopher, Christopher cut him off with a kiss. He just reached up and kissed Remus, as if it was that easy. Remus's first instinct was to push him away. This was nothing like what he had wanted. Fortunately, it was only the briefest brush of the lips. "Oh, Christopher," Remus breathed. You're such a good mate and—" Oh, shit. He shouldn't have said the word mate. Mate was the worst possible word. He could practically see Christopher's heart break. But only for a moment, before their pure blood stiff upper lip took over. He shook his head, stepped back. "It's fine. Honestly, I'd rather be friends than not, if that's all we can be." Remus ached. "Come on," Christopher smiled, as if nothing had happened. "It's steak and kidney pie tonight. Your favourite." They left the classroom, just the two of them, and Remus quietly closed the door behind him to avoid suspicion.